Hi, and welcome to The Parent Equation with me, Aisha Murray. I'm a coach and I primarily support working parents and carers who believe that parenthood shouldn't be a barrier to a successful and fulfilling career. In this podcast series, I chat to inspirational working parents and ask them to share their own experiences of raising children alongside their careers. We talk about the struggles and the moments of joy. And I hope in each episode there's something that can bring you a bit more strength and positivity. So please follow, listen and subscribe on all major platforms. Welcome to this episode of The Parent Equation. Today I'm joined by Sam O'Neill. Sam is a parenting coach who runs Assured Parenting. She supports parents who want to bring out the best in their children. Now, I'll freely admit that I could use some help in this area, so I can't wait to hear her perspectives on family and working for yourself. Hi, Sam. Thanks so much for being here.
Hi, Aisha. It's a pleasure, and I know that you can also help me with things as well, so it's a great collaboration between us.
Good. I'm glad. So for the audience, it's exceptionally relevant, I think, for my audience, the business that you run. So could you give me a quick overview of Assured Parenting, exactly what you do for parents?
Yeah, I mean, I love what I do because what I do at Assured Parenting with positive parenting, training and coaching is transform families' lives. Two main types of parents that come to me, but most commonly it's parents who want a kind of immediate solution to the behaviour of their children and the chaos that's going on at home, the shouting or the tantrums and things like that. They want to change their family dynamic, and what I can help parents do is to make homes more harmonious and families calmer and kinder with each other. And often I love it because even, although I offer really long-term solutions that, will take children right through to they're 18 and actually give them a really found a bedrock for their adult life. Actually they can come back after the first week and say the dynamic in my house has changed already. We're calmer and kinder and I'm looking at my family and my children differently. And one of the things that I love best about running my groups, I do see private clients as well, but when I run my groups and I bring parents together, and it's often mums, but I do get dads on most courses as well, is that it brings parents together. And it's so important in this day and age because we all parent behind closed doors. We don't have that kind of village aspect to parenting that, previous generations had, where there was a lot of wider family around and a lot more supporting each other. And actually raising children is a huge challenge. It's one of the biggest challenges we face in our lives. There's no bigger job we do really, and actually we don't receive any training for it. Where thrown this baby, we might have done an NCT class or a childbirth class to find out how to have the baby, and then the first year or so is a bit of a kind of muddle through, and they suddenly hit 2 and the toddler tantrums, and no one's told you that there are ways you can help your child manage that behavior. And in fact, I say toddler tantrums, but tantrums don't go away. They just turn into meltdowns and stroppy behaviour with teenagers. And it's because children are dealing with their feelings and their big emotions. And if you know how to handle those feelings and those emotions, and you know how to boost your child's self-esteem so they're less likely to have those meltdowns because they know how to handle their own behaviour, then actually you find that you have this calmer, happier household. So I think that positive parenting classes should be mandatory for parents. I think the government should invest in them. And David Cameron did say at one point when he was Prime Minister that he was going to make them something that all parents should do. But obviously governments change and things change. But I run classes, parents from all sorts of different backgrounds, and they all face slightly different challenges, but nevertheless, challenges with their children.
Yeah, what kind of age range are the children in that case? Is it, I think you've mentioned 18 already, is it a whole range?
It's the whole gamut. So I start at 2 because under 2, they're not really capable of understanding so well what you're doing. I mean, parents can come to positive parenting with children younger than that. They just, do it to prepare for when their children are 2. So 2-year-olds to 18-year-olds are the age range that I help. And people often say, but that's ridiculous. How can you have people in your classes with such wide age ranges? And it's really interesting because sometimes I do get, I had a whole class once with 8-year-old girls. The parents of 8-year-olds, and they all had really similar issues, and it was really easy to help them. But actually, even when the issues are really different, because you've got 4-year-old and you've got 14-year-old, actually the way you help them manage their feelings and the way you boost their self-esteem and the way you give them boundaries, it's the same. You just have to use your voice in a slightly different tone and use slightly different rewards, and you just adapt the skills to your circumstance with the not just with your child's age. Actually, the more relevant thing is your child's temperament, really. So temperamentally sensitive children are often much harder to deal with than temperamentally more resilient children.
I guess also in the group dynamic, if you have the parents of a 14-year-old and the parents of a 4-year-old, I imagine that potentially the more experienced parents could again share their advice and their experiences with the younger parents, not younger parents, but the parents of the younger child. And maybe they get extra benefit from that within your groups as well.
I think it depends. I think if you've got a parent of a 14-year-old child and throughout that child's life, they have battled with them and they have rubbed up against them the wrong way and they feel like they're tearing their hair out. It's not necessarily right that a parent that's got more experience will be able to help a less experienced parent, because everyone comes because they need some sort of help and support. Actually, what I find is that when the group dynamic gets going, which we're managing really well over Zoom now, is actually that parents all have different ideas to support each other. And actually, and they start to use the skills that I teach them. Say, well, I think I would do this if I was you in that situation. Because in the moment, a parent might not be able to think, this is going wrong and I need help with this. And another parent might go, well, do you remember we talked about? And actually it works in that way, rather than just because they've got an older child.
Yeah. So that was actually going to be my next question when you mentioned Zoom, is that did you start your business pre-pandemic or during pandemic?
So pre-pandemic. So I was running it for about a year before the pre-pandemic. So I'd run classes in my house. And one of the things that I like to do for busy parents when they come to my courses is I put relaxing music on, and I have coffee brewing, and I have lovely biscuits, and they come for 15 minutes before the class. And I just give parents a bit of headspace and a bit of time to come and relax and enjoy what they're doing and not feel like what they're doing is a course that they have to do. And it's in a church hall and it's just something horrible, to really pamper parents in a way when they come to my courses. And then sit in my lounge, which is nice and comfortable, and have chats at break time and chats afterwards with nice music, and that was really lovely. And then suddenly in the pandemic I was halfway through a course and one of my parents said, I think my sister might have COVID, so I don't think I should come. And I was like, well, let's be safe anyway, let's all just switch to Zoom. So literally within the space of a week we had to switch to Zoom, and that was actually all right because I'd already got the group dynamic set up from personal contact from the 3 weeks of having those parents on that course, and the last 2 weeks of the course I did with them worked really well. And then the next Zoom class I ran, I had 4 or 5 parents on, and everyone was getting used to Zoom, weren't they, at the beginning, and how to run courses on them. And somebody had an echo on their line, so somebody else said, oh well, let's all go on mute. And actually the dynamic was hard. It was really hard work, and I couldn't hear any interaction. There was no laughter, there was no rustling, there was no noise in the background, and it felt like me just talking. And actually after that, I really readdressed how to do Zoom, and the word is pivoted, isn't it? In lockdown, I pivoted, and I started to say to people, log on 10 minutes early and let's have a chat beforehand, like we would do in my classes. Come back at the break time if you want to with your coffee, or not coffee in the evening often, but your drink, and have a chat, and we can just chat about normal stuff, rather than learning stuff. And I set WhatsApp groups up to support people via WhatsApp, so there was more sort of sense of community build up. And it's a learning curve, isn't it? I don't think those parents that I did that first Zoom with missed out on any content or anything. There just wasn't such a supportive dynamic in that, and now we're back to managing it. And I think actually in terms of business sense, Zoom has been amazing, because while I will go back to running classes from my house once we're allowed to, because I love having people at my house and it's so comfy and it is really nice to pamper parents, that's for local parents in Beckenham basically, and the surrounding areas. Actually I'll offer Zoom classes as well, because then I can help parents and give the support that parents need to a much wider audience.
And that could be worldwide then, couldn't it?
Yes, I've had clients. I had a client from Switzerland.
Oh, really?
Lockdown, which was really exciting.
Yeah. I think that's the thing about Zoom, and this, I said, this sort of global advantage is that we could genuinely get clients from across the globe, from Australia, from a time difference permitting, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to say, it depends on time difference, doesn't it? What time you're running your classes for Australia.
Like so then you started your business, you said, about a year before the pandemic hit. And I think I'm right in thinking that you were a teacher before that.
That's right.
So can you tell me a little bit about how did you suppose, what was your journey from teaching into being coach for parents, and how did that happen?
So I had my daughter, so I had a son already, and then I had a 5-year age gap for all sorts of sad reasons, but I had my daughter, and I just realised that teaching was not a really easy job to do with children, and I think there are lots of jobs like that, because of the hours that you work and things like that. But when I went back, I was head of year in secondary school, and then I went back after my son and I dropped head of year and I went down to 2 days a week. And even on 2 days a week of being in school and teaching, I was still working 5 days a week at home, and I just thought this is unsustainable with 2 children. And I love teaching, and I was really sad to leave the classroom and the kids and stuff, and I wanted to work. I wanted to do something for me. And my mum said to me, "Oh, you love reading positive parenting books and you're always giving your sister advice from them." And even my NCT group, when I had NCT group, I would read books when Alexander was little, and I would sort of chat, when you're in your picnics in the park, I'd chat and say, "I've read this book, it's really interesting." And they'd go, "Can you just read all the books and praise them for us, because we haven't got time to read them." And I love reading them. And so it was, it really is a passion of mine, sort of positive parenting and how to help your children's self-esteem and resilience develop. And my mum sort of said, why don't you look at doing some coaching and some parenting coaching? And so when I had been a teacher at Wimbledon High School, the parent practice had come and done a training session for the staff there, and I remembered them and I looked them up and I found that they had trained the trainers course. So they used all their 20 years of research and knowledge and experience to impart that to other people, because they wanted to spread their message. And they felt that the more people were doing this sort of positive parenting, the better it is, because more families would have access to it.
Yep.
So I did their training course, and then I still work in school terms, so then I used the next term to set my business up and all the things you need to do to set a business up, which was a massive shock to me, having been in the teaching world and not in the world of corporate or marketing or anything like that at all. The amount of work you need to do behind the scenes to set a small business up. I must have known there was work to do, because I allowed myself a term to do it. But I don't think I'd ever been busier than in that term. And then you launch your business and you think, oh my god, is anyone going to buy my stuff? And then you go from there, and it's really exciting when you get that first sale. And then I had 5 people on my first course, and that's how many people I could fit in my lounge, so I always said I'd have 5 people on my courses. And then it's just, there's been highs and lows, as there are with running a small business, but I feel like I'm embedded a bit now and I know what I'm doing a bit better, although it is always a learning journey, this running a small business thing.
It is. And I think we said yesterday, didn't we, when we were chatting about something else, that marketing yourself these days, and I'm from a marketing background, so I should know better, but marketing yourself is a completely different beast. And marketing yourself in a pandemic, in a remote world, and also with a huge amount of social media needed, is completely different to sort of, I suppose for me, the corporate marketing world I came from, and the way you would have marketed yourself 10 years ago. So it is a huge learning curve, and it changes every day, doesn't it?
It does, and you have to be on it every day as well. As soon as you stop thinking about it or doing it or planning for it, you've lost your space in the market, basically.
Yeah.
It's a very crowded market.
So just talk about the pandemic, and I suppose running your parenting courses now during a pandemic and remotely, etc. You talked about the children earlier and having that the children involved in conversations, and I spoke to a previous guest on another podcast about the importance of having honest conversations with children and keeping them included in the conversation, and especially at a time like this where the whole world is in crisis, especially for slightly older children. My older daughter's 10, so she is definitely of an age where she is understanding what's going on and has questions, is not to fob them off because they're kids or they don't understand or they don't have anything to add. But so what's your view, really, I suppose, on keeping that conversation open and honest and alive with children?
Do you mean generally or about the pandemic?
I suppose generally, pandemic, only because it's topical and there's so much to talk about, but I think generally speaking.
So I think it's the fundamental heart of positive parenting is keeping channels of communication open between you and your children. And actually, my son has been very anxious in the past, and actually I think with a lot of emotion coaching, which I use with him, his anxiety is actually beginning to lessen, which is really good to see. I still think it's there at the root of him, but I think that one of the things that parents can do is to make sure they have special time with their children. And, you know, parents will say to you, but I spend time with my kids. And you say, okay, special time is when you turn your phone off and you put it away somewhere and you haven't got a to-do list running through your head about what are the 6 things you're going to do when they go to bed, or what are the 6 things you need to do after this chat. And you let the kids just say what they want to do with you. And, you know, sometimes it's like the parent chooses what you're going to do together one night and the child chooses the next night, but ring fencing time to spend with your child with an uncluttered mind. And actually, if, you know, we have a schedule up in our kitchen and it says something like 6 p.m. special time, 6:30 reading, 7 o'clock bedtime, or I think that was, you know, a few years ago. I think Alexander's getting a bit older, so the timings have changed. But, so making sure you allow time for your children, but also with keeping lines of communication open. One thing that parents often do if their child comes to them with a problem is, say, for example, just hypothetically, a child came and said, I'm just so useless at maths, I can't do it, I hate maths, what's the point of this maths homework, I hate it.
That's not hypothetical, it's not hypothetical in my house.
It's not going to be the same for all parents, but that is a very common kind of thing that you hear from children. And what we tend to say as parents to things like that is, well, don't be silly, you got 10 out of 10 on your maths test last week, and, you know, of course you can do maths, don't be daft, come on, we'll do it together and I'll help you and you'll get through it and it'll be all right. And actually what that does for children is they think, well, you don't understand me, you don't get what's going on in my head. And actually what we want to do with children is to allow them to have those feelings and make sure that they feel that what they tell us is taken seriously and genuinely, and make sure that if they say, I'm useless at maths, I can't do it, I hate maths, that we say to them, oh gee, that must be really, really tough feeling like that. I can hear that you're feeling really frustrated and really overwhelmed by this maths. And then thinking about, okay, what can you do? What can we do? What can I do to help you? What can you do? What ideas can you think of that would help you get through? So not giving children solutions, but asking them, and this touches on something you were saying at the earlier in the recording, asking them for solutions, opening up the lines for them to problem solve. And that's what we want to encourage in our children. We want to encourage them to know that they can trust us to understand their feelings, because if we do and we empathize with them, it opens up lines of communication and it keeps those lines of communication open. And if we get them to problem solve, if we get them to say, okay, well, I could do it in bite-sized chunks, I could, you know, do question 1 and then have a break, just look at question 1 and not worry about anything else. Or you could say, you know, maybe you could sit next to me and just and be with me while I do it, just to give me the confidence that I can do it, kind of thing. You know, we get them to problem solve. Actually, that's a massive skill we teach them for the rest of their lives, you know, when they're faced with a problem, that they can work their way through it, kind of thing. But you know, in terms of the pandemic, you're absolutely right, just allowing them to have those fears and those feelings, and making sure that you say it's okay. You know, we can't put a lid on worries, we can't take anxieties away if children have them. These are very real, and adults have these very real anxieties and worries too about the pandemic. You know, you can't diminish them, you just need to let children talk about them and understand. And you know, it can be quite a good idea to have a worry box, you know, to say, actually, let's talk about this for 15 minutes, and not at bedtime, you know, but at lunchtime or after school, and then put the lid on the box, you know, air it, express it, say it's okay, you know. And you can't do much about the pandemic, there aren't magic solutions that, you know, they're going to be able to problem solve the pandemic themselves. So it's just allowing them to sit with it, and that it's okay, that it's normal, to normalize worries for children, and not to say that, you know, don't be ridiculous, you don't need to worry about this, we'll keep you safe, kind of thing. But just to be accepting that it is a worrying time, and I get that, and it's okay to be worried, and you know, adults are worried too, and we can talk about it as much as you like, and then we'll put the lid on it, and we don't want those worries to grow, kind of thing.
So you're talking about a hypothetical imaginary worry box as opposed to an actual tin.
I mean, you can have an actual tin.
I know they have I think my daughter's school has it as a tin, and they put anonymously, they can put their worries or their concerns into the actual box, and then the teacher then picks one, I don't know how often, and they discuss it as a class anonymously, but they discuss the issue as a class. So I suppose either way I suppose would work, wouldn't it then?
My kids have worry dolls with zip mouths that they can put, if they're really worried about something, they can put it in at night, and then we have to remember to go and get it out.
Okay. That's a really good idea.
you can have your own worry tin, and they can write things down if you want and seal it. I mean, anything that helps.
Anything that works. And it's so interesting what you say about the problem solving aspect, because obviously my business is coaching and coaching parents to do with work and life and career, but absolutely my approach, as with all coaches, is to allow those people to solve their own problems and to come to their own conclusions and to guide them rather than to tell them what to do. But I definitely do not do that with my children.
Yes.
And your maths example is spot on. I mean, Olivia, my oldest, will often say, I can't do this, I'm rubbish at maths. And I will respond in the way that you've just said is the wrong way to respond, which is...
It's not the wrong way. There are just better ways to help them.
Better ways. And I'll say to her, oh, don't be daft. You know, you can do it, But if she was my coaching client, I wouldn't have said that to her.
Yeah. Do you know what? I have obviously lots of working parents come on my courses, mums and dads who are in the business world, and so much of what I teach them, they say, this is insane. I do this at work all the time. I haven't thought of applying this to my children. Why haven't I thought of applying this to my children? And although I give some really good tips and really interesting insights into children, lots of what I teach is practical. It's just about the consistency and making sure, doing a course rather than reading a book, you come back week on week and, you get a review of how things are going, and it just helps you to be more consistent about applying things as well.
So why do you think parents, myself included then, know what to do in a work scenario, or for me, a coaching business scenario, but we don't apply that to our children? What is it that's making us behave differently?
I don't know, but what I do know is that even as a teacher, I had the parent practice come to my work, and I did a master's in growth mindset, which is about helping children realise that it's important to put effort in and praise effort rather than outcomes, so that they learn that they can change the outcome with their effort. And I knew all of that, and yet until I did my positive parenting training, I wasn't applying that in my own home. A little bit I was, but not enough and not consistently enough. And I just think we separate work and home, and we want to separate work and home because we want to be at home with our kids and having fun, and we want to leave work behind, and a little bit will spill over probably from work to home. But I think what you need is, I think what I give is a program and say in manageable chunks, this is how you apply this bit of what you do. And obviously there's things that you don't do at work that I teach, but it's just breaking it down into modules and making sure that week by week you've got a program you can build on, and it's learning how to apply it to your family. I don't think it's easy to apply work skills to your family because you do so much at work. Which bits would you apply? And it's hard to pick out the things that are relevant to family life, I think.
And also family life is so subjective, whereas when you're at work or you're running a business, that is in theory more objective. Exactly, so it's quite different then, I suppose, to translate it across.
And each individual family has their own values. At work you've got a corporate value, haven't you? You've got a culture that you subscribe to, whereas at home you're creating your own family culture and your family values, and that's really different.
And again to your point originally about applying it from work to home, that when I was in sort of the corporate world for 20 odd years, we would spend days of the year planning out our team values, our company culture, all of this sort of stuff, which often just got filed away for the next year. But anyway, we do it, but we've never done that at home. We never say, as you've just said,
that's one of the things I teach.
House values, what do our house stand for, our home stand for, our family stand for?
And it's so important to have your family mission statement, not to just hope that your children imbibe your values, but to actually say to them, these are our values, and model them and demonstrate to them, what it is that's important to you as a family.
Yeah, definitely. Right, I've got a job to do later on today, off for the weekend, just to do my family values. Code of ethics. So I talk to a lot of clients in my work, as you probably do as well, about the work-life juggle. And one part of that is juggling practical things to do every day and just getting everything done in a day. But obviously a big part of it is just the mental load of having a career and raising a family. So given that you are an expert in the parenting side of it, something which I certainly aren't, and I have my struggles with my kids on a daily basis, as do all parents, do you feel you have a better perspective, I guess, and you're more resilient, maybe you have a better ability to balance those two things because of the business that you run?
Yeah, I think in some ways definitely yes, and in other ways less so. So I think yes, in terms of I really do feel well equipped to understand how to manage my children's emotions and their behaviours. And so when they have a temper tantrum or when they don't want to go to school in the morning, it doesn't become a shouting match. And so I know we're going to have calm mornings and get out of the house in a calm way. You know, when my son comes home, oh, I don't want to do my homework. You know, I understand why, and I can get him through it without temper tantrums, and knowing that there's that going to be that calmness around definitely makes that take all that stress away from my life, you know, and knowing that I've taught my 4-year-old to play independently so I can get on with cooking the dinner and she's not nagging and pulling at my trousers and, you know, needing mummy all the time. Not that she doesn't come into the kitchen and help me sometimes and, you know, play in the kitchen, that's fine as well, but she's really good at playing independently, you know, and getting the kids to help around the house so I don't feel like I'm having to do everything and be a slave to them, you know, like just my son is making his own bed and he gets stuff out for breakfast and he puts his shoes and coats away. And my 4-year-old, you know, I came out the kitchen the other day and literally the playroom looked like a bomb site. And it's the walkway at the moment, so we're in rented accommodation, it's the walkway through to the dining room. And I was like, no one's going to be able to get to dinner. Okay, what can we do about this? And she had tidied up a walkway while I was cooking because, you know, we've been teaching and training her. So what I know with children, if they're not doing what you want them to do, it's all about training. So in that way, I feel like I can manage that side of my life really effectively, and I know that when I teach that, other parents find that they can manage that better. But no, in terms of it's still a journey. One of the things I do teach is about, you know, how to keep yourself calm, and, you know, I've only been doing this for about a year and a bit now, year and a half, and I think that I've applied a lot of the skills from the first half of the course and I'm still learning some of the skills from the second half of the course. You know, this is one of the reasons why I found you as well, because I think it's something that I still struggle with, is the juggle between running a small business and having a small child at home for a lot of the day still. And, you know, I think that there are other things that I can still learn about that, and from you, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully, and vice versa, most definitely vice versa. So talking about working from home, because that obviously throws another spanner in the works, I suppose, for most people at the moment, is that we're used to partitioning work and home. For those of us who had to leave home to go to an office or go somewhere else for work, there was a natural break between work and home and a different environment. So have you had any experiences with your clients during this period where the struggles that people are going through with having to be at home all day with either young children or just in the same space as their husband, wife? Have you got any experiences or views from other parents on that?
Wow, so many. I think that during the first lockdown, it was absolutely horrendous for a lot of parents, because often if you had two parents working and children trying to do schoolwork as well, or even I think probably an even worse scenario is, you know, two parents working and a small child at home who didn't have any work to do, you know, sort of reception age, early years foundation stage and under. You know, I think that was just so hard because there was no division between anything. What I do think though is that parents put in a lot of really good coping strategies, and, you know, everybody found a way to make it work somehow. But I think the palpable relief that parents felt when they said schools were going to open in September was marked. And I think everybody felt that there was time back again. And, you know, even with all the skills that I have, and, you know, it was I was trying to work and supervise my son doing his work and trying to manage a 4-year-old who didn't really have anything to do. I definitely felt my business just slide. You know, I wasn't posting on Facebook and I wasn't advertising my courses, and I think sadly a lot of the research said it was women's businesses that suffered and women's work that suffered. You know, not always, but percentage wise, women were picking up more of the slack, I think. But, you know, I think that it was difficult for everybody, and everybody just did the best that they could. But I did have people definitely on my courses during lockdown saying, oh my God, I think I found you at just the right time. I don't think I would have got through lockdown without you, because we've changed the family dynamic in our house, and at least we're not shouting at each other when we're all cooped up.
And to your point, as you said, the businesses did slide, and I made a conscious decision when the first lockdown happened, knowing that I wasn't going to be able to manage a 10-year-old's homework, so year 6, so they had quite a lot to do, and a 5-year-old's reception, which she had stuff to do but not the same level, plus my business. I knew that wasn't going to work. I just thought, right, I need to accept this now. I need to be a realist about this. And I decided to put the business on hold. I mean, I don't mean the business, but the marketing and the sort of real day-to-day tasks. I decided, you know what, I'm just going to have to take a couple of months where the kids have to be my focus, because ultimately they're the ones who are going to lose out longer term if they lose out on this education period.
I think you with your background, I think that was a very sensible thing to do. I think I kept the juggle up and the pressure on myself for longer, but then realized that actually it's okay, you know, something has to give. And if it's writing blogs, because I haven't got the time and energy to write blogs, you know, if I can keep my courses going with my current clients, because I had clients lined up, that's fine. But, you know, it took me longer to realize that it was okay to let something give, and it would be okay to pick it up again in September. I think it took me a while to realize that it would be okay to pick it up again. I thought that if I let it go, it might just, having worked so hard for it and it being quite a new and small business, I thought it might just all go under, and that's not what I wanted to happen. I wanted to, you know, when my daughter went into upper kindergarten and was 5 mornings a week rather than 3, I was thinking I've got a bit more time, I can start getting back to it again. But you know, things happen for a reason, and it's been okay. And
the thing is, you have to be confident in yourself and say no to things sometimes, and that could be saying no to things that you're putting on yourself. So for me, it was saying, I'm not going to do this particular aspect of my business for the next couple of months because I need to concentrate on the children. Or it could be saying no to something that other people are asking of you. And it's having that confidence and not feeling guilty about saying, you know what, this is not right for me at the moment. And short term, it's the best thing to do. And things will be all right. So things always, they do work out. And you might have to slog a little bit harder. But they do work out in the end.
They do.
So what does, because obviously you're running your business from home and remotely now, obviously via Zoom at the moment. So what does a successful business day look like for you at the moment?
Well, I think that's a really difficult question to answer, because I don't have much pattern to what a successful business day looks like. So it can range from 3 hours of working flat out while my daughter's at preschool in the morning, and that can be doing anything, preparing a session for a private client, you know, talking to people who are interested in my courses, or planning my social media posts with potential clients, to a successful business day for me can also look like preparing the dinner in the morning, so that actually when I've got a course running in the evening, I know that I'm going to get dinner to the kids on time, they can get to bed, so I can set up for my course and have a successful evening. So actually there is no such thing, I think, when you're juggling running a small business with a small child at home for, you know, all the afternoons, as a normal successful business day. I'm quite a can-do person though, and you know, when I'm overwhelmed with lists of things to do, I don't just procrastinate. I just sit down and start ticking them off and getting on with them. And you know, a successful day for me is ticking things off my to-do list, whether they are for my business or for the house, so that I don't feel stressed about that, so I can get on with stuff for my business. It's just about prioritizing, isn't it? And seeing what's the most pressing thing on your agenda, and making sure it doesn't feel so urgent that it's consuming you, but actually making sure that it's done in a timely way, so that it's not pressurizing you to do it then and there.
And actually, you make a very good point. I said my words were successful business day, and you've just quite rightly said, actually, success is business related, or it can be family related, because both of these things are happening in the same place. during the same 24-hour period. So successfully making dinner in the morning, so that's off your list, is a successful day, as well as running the course in the evening, etc. So they're actually both the same thing.
I think that the reason why so many mums do set up their own business is exactly that you said, that it's kind of working in tandem. The fact that you can juggle running your business and making the dinner and picking the kids up when they need to be picked up, and doing whatever you need to do for them. And so I think actually there's much less separation from when you used to go to work and then come home than there is if you're running a small business from home.
And I'll often work. I also, one of my things is not to work in the evening post kids' bedtime, because that is my time with my husband to watch Netflix basically and have dinner. And I try and keep that as clear as possible of work, but I do tend to do quite a bit of work between maybe 4 and 6 when the kids are home, but they are doing some homework, they are shouting at each other upstairs, whatever they're doing, but I can just sit in the kitchen and do a couple of hours work even though they're at home. And then that keeps my later evening free. So I think, like you said, it's just whatever works for you and your family dynamic, doesn't it?
Definitely.
You have to make it work if you have to juggle everything.
You do. That's what we're all trying to do, isn't it?
I know. So Sam, I think we've come to the end of our time now. It's been absolutely fascinating having you on, especially there are so many tips and strategies that I know personally I'm going to take on board with regards to my children. Are there any sort of final words you wanted to share with my listeners?
I think that it's really important to say that as parents, we're not on our own, and that whether parents talk about it or not, every parent faces challenges. They might be different from your challenges, but there's no need to worry or think that you're on your own or that other parents are coping better than you. It's so easy to look at parents and think everyone else is coping better than me, and actually we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, and that, you know, coming and doing a positive parenting course can really help give you tools to manage your family and have calmness, and you feel like you're on top of the world because you feel like you're giving your children the best start in life.
Yeah, that is perfect. And I definitely aspire to that. I just need to now do something about it, I think. So thank you so much, Sam. Have a lovely day.
Pleasure, Aisha. Lovely to talk to you and you. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Talking to Sam today really made me think about my approach to parenting and how, by taking out as much stress and emotion as possible, life can feel so much more balanced. Starting the day with shouting at the kids to put their socks on or get their bags ready means that every day starts on a negative footing, something which I'm sure permeates through the hours ahead. So there is definitely plenty we can all take out of today's episode. Thanks for listening. Remember to like, follow and share, and see you next time.